Have you seen Top Gun?
I don't think I have.
I've never seen Top Gun.
Are you boys having a giraffe?
I don't think I've seen Top Gun either. I'm just gonna put that out there.
We're all kind of like that. Oh, Top Gun, fantastic. Like, no idea what Top Gun is.
I like James Bond.
How shocked she is.
Yeah. But like you, they take you in the room and the nurse comes in with you, and I thought, this isn't great because the consultant needs somebody with them to give you the bad news. And they just said, we thought originally maybe it wasn't as bad, but actually you've got AML. And I just was like that. And we literally got out of the hospital, and I remember it was a really nice day, and I stood in the car park and I just burst into tears, and I was like, what am I going to do? What's happening? Am I going to die?
And then I got married in March.
I seen that on Facebook actually, the pictures of that in Benmore, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that
got married in the
beautiful.
Avenue, and then it was something like 5 weeks later I was back in this guy's office, and he was like, oh yeah, you've got stage 4 cancer and it's spread. I was like, oh, alright, okay, thanks.
By the point that I went in, I would reckon I was probably only maybe a couple of weeks away from dying if I was lucky. I was so unwell at that point.
Yeah, I just felt like I was cast aside as no hope, that's me.
Really?
Off you go to die. We'll just keep poisoning you until you die, or the chemo kills you. Something's going to get you, see you after. I was like, okay, thanks. For my second time round, when I came out and there was like no hope, and it was, I think don't ever lose hope. There's always a chance.
Well, thank you very much for obviously coming on to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Obviously today we're joined by Rebecca and Angela, both of which have obviously individual stories, but really amazing stories about obviously a battle and a journey with cancer. Two very, very strong women, so thank you very much for coming on.
You're probably regretting it already.
Oh God.
We've had lunch, it's all
Yeah, we've fed yous, and obviously that takes us on to our sponsor for this podcast, which I can't believe I'm actually saying we've got a sponsor for
episode 3. We've got a
Episode
sponsor.
They must have known we were coming.
Yeah. We needed feds before.
And a lot of people might think the perfect sponsor doesn't exist,
But it
but
certainly does.
Cameron's Dairy in Dunoon is the sponsor of this
food.
podcast.
Yeah.
We have just all had a couple of paninis and some soup.
Tasty
which
soup.
Yeah.
We can all testify
It's
that
very good.
it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Delightful. Get yourself in for a wee soup with a roll.
Yeah.
Cream
Yeah,
of broccoli and
definitely.
smoked cheese.
Oh, aye.
Aye. No,
Delicious.
you really don't get much better.
That's
So
what we eat anyway, do you know what I mean? So
we eat there anyway, and then so see when they
Absolutely.
contacted to say they'd like to sponsor it, we were like, well, to be honest, I don't think you get much better of a sponsor.
I do not.
Obviously they do all the American sweets as well, which I'll definitely be
I'll
getting
be
about.
taking.
Do you know I haven't
Tasty.
seen a
Very
Pop-Tart in a million years? I used to have a friend and he used to keep a toaster. This was like student life.
Pop-Tarts in it.
He had a toaster in his drawer.
Really?
And in the morning when the alarm used to go off, he used to open the drawer,
Put
put Pop-Tarts in the
Pop-Tart in.
toaster,
Aye.
and that was him.
I've not had it. It literally takes you back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really, really
Yeah.
does. You don't see them too often anymore, but
No.
yeah, no, we'll definitely. I'll be sticking on a good bit of weight over the next
Oh, aye.
couple of
Help
weeks,
yourself.
especially if we
Eating
keep
all
this
the
sponsor
free
as well.
lunches.
Can you eat them cold?
Don't think Pop-Tarts, nah, but I got like those.
Hey, you can eat anything goes. You can eat a Pop-Tart
Can
cold.
you?
But once
I've
you
only
pop
ever
it in
seen them
the
toasted.
toaster, you need the asbestos lips.
Oh,
Because
Yeah.
that is
lava.
hot in the middle.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
I've experienced that a couple of times. Definitely the burn
What
lips.
M&M's are those? I just picked them up random.
We have. Oh, fudge brownie, and I tell you what, that's up my street. I love.
Claim them.
I have.
Okay,
They are
okay.
absolutely amazing.
What else is up
I've
there?
never seen them. We've got ourselves some Laffy Taffy candy, so you can
Oh my
get
God.
about some of that.
Some spread.
We've got loads of stuff.
Got
Jolly-
4 lollies and all.
Jolly Ranchers,
Jolly Rancher.
Nerds.
I like the Jolly Rancher.
So yeah, get into Cameron's Dairy
Fuck
for
yeah.
obviously all your dairy needs. They do, I mean, sandwiches, soups,
Paninis.
paninis. I mean, the soups are amazing. They get up proper early in the morning to make sure it's fresh soup every single day.
Every
Feels
day.
like it's different every single day.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
it is, yep.
there's always something for everyone, isn't there?
Sounds good.
So thank you very much for that sponsor.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you for a tasty lunch.
Exactly, it helps, doesn't it? Gives you your appetite.
Yeah.
Is that us done?
Yeah, that's us. It's over, everyone. That's
It's
us.
a wrap.
That's us, yeah. So Rebecca, we've known you for quite a while.
Yeah.
Obviously staying in Dunoon. Obviously also having your family have the PDA
Yeah.
like Shearwater. I think we obviously know you used to do
Yeah.
that.
Done
We
quite
used
a lot
to-
for that.
To work at the PDA. When did your dad and Alistair start that?
Shearwater, oh goodness, that was a long time ago. They're going to kill me for not remembering the year now, but
Straight on the spot.
PDA was 2004.
So the PDA is a diving company.
PDA is the training company.
training company.
Shearwater's obviously been around for longer, so they must be coming up for like, oh god, maybe 30 years now, I think.
30
so
years, as
yeah,
long as that.
it's a long time. So
That's
Going a while, eh?
So you must have been pretty young.
yeah, so they
yeah.
You got in for
I was about to say maybe you weren't born by that time.
they started working together before I was even born, and then obviously Shearwater, they had an actual company a few years later. So yeah, they've been going strong for a long time.
I think it's an amazing business in Dunoon. Like the amount of people that they employ is unbelievable. They obviously do a lot for Dunoon, and obviously myself and Michael went through the diving course, and we got jobs like straight away.
When was that? Was that 2000?
I think it was 7 years ago.
That was the spray tan
I
years.
thought that was the spray tan years.
We're live now. We're not speaking about that anymore.
I thought it was before that, actually. I thought it was longer than that.
It might be.
Maybe
See, to be
was.
honest with you, I think it might be longer than that. It could be more towards like 8 years ago.
Did you come with the big group from Dunoon?
Yeah. So there was like 7 of us on this.
Ross, Magnus, Monica.
Yeah.
It was quite funny because the PDA was always known for, okay, so if you go and do your course and you stay in Dunoon, you're most likely to get a job with Shearwater, which is what everyone wants if you stay in Dunoon. But normally there's only like 1 or 2 people from Dunoon doing the course. Yeah. 7 of us or 8 of us arrived that first morning, and we're all just kind of looking at each other like,
who's going to get the job this time?
This isn't what we thought. Do you know what I mean? But it was absolutely amazing. Like they gave every single one of us a job. Even if I don't even know if they had a job for us all. Do you know what I mean? But made sure to employ every single one of us, which is amazing. And I mean, they continue to do that, don't they?
Yeah, we take quite a lot of local people. Obviously, as long as they're good and we get good feedback from them on course, then we tend to take divers on. We're always kind of looking for divers, or the majority of the time, we're always looking for people for the other work that we do as well. So it's good. We've been growing and growing year by year, but we never take it for granted. You don't know what can happen and how your business goes. So, but it's good to be able to give something back to the town itself as well. So.
I think I was a massive letdown with the diving.
You got put right in the good team as well.
I know.
Didn't you?
That wasn't anything to do with how me as a diver.
What was your last name?
Yeah, it was my last name. So my brother's been a diver for quite a long time. I think he was a good diver. Do you know what I mean? He was quite good. He'd done it for quite a long time. And I think they thought, here's the younger brother. You're already diving. Massive letdown. Honestly.
Jump standby.
Jump standby.
Must be in the water.
Keep him out the water. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, that's what I always say. I think I was a massive letdown, and I shouldn't have. That's why we only lasted a year, probably.
I wasn't much better. I think I was actually worse than you, to be fair. And that stays something.
We absolutely loved it though. It was amazing, and like the patter was really good with everyone. Like the group of guys is absolutely amazing. Have you ever tried it? Did you ever? Surely your dad?
I tried it once and I hated it.
Really?
I didn't enjoy it. Johnny always tries to convince me every time we go on holidays, like, will you just let me take you diving? You'll really like it. And I'm like, nope.
Will you snorkel?
I'll snorkel. I'll go in the water. I'll do loads of stuff in the water, but I'm just not interested.
It's just with the big helmet on and things.
I feel it makes me feel really claustrophobic. So I'm just not.
Especially with a big helmet
not
on.
Not up for it. Yeah. So
was that in the tank you tried it?
Yeah, I tried it in the tank. I was a total letdown. So I'm probably a bit of a letdown as well in that respect. I'm sure my mum and dad would have liked me to be a diver, or maybe my dad. But nah, I'm happy doing the business side of it.
How long did your dad dive?
Oh God, I can't remember when he stopped, but
I'm putting you in the spot here. Like
my dad and Alistair, I think Alistair still gets his diving medical. I don't think my dad gets his medical anymore, but he did up until not that long ago, just in case they ever needed to go out diving. You never know.
In case they get a diver like me and they need to go and do it, come in and save me. To be honest, have you ever tried? Have you ever?
No.
Don't fancy it.
I don't. I don't like the fishies.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it can be like, see, when you go snorkeling, you get in the
you
water and you're like, oh, there's nothing there. When you put your head under and you're like, oh my God, there's loads of stuff under there.
I used to take the kids shore walking around at Ardentiny.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, you follow me, kids, this way.
Yeah.
And I remember going to put my foot down, there was a big starfish. I was like, I was like pulling kids back. Get away. Just because it's not like they sneak up on you, does it? It's not like they're fast.
The feeling of them, innit? To texture.
Just seen it.
See, to be honest though, that seems a bit like luxury, because I mean, I've never been abroad and snorkeled where you can see like coral reef and different wee sharks and like starfish and that sort of stuff. Literally, we're just in the Clyde where you can see not even a metre in front of you. See like that, or a
seaweed.
Aye, exactly.
It's something touched me.
See like that, or just a submarine. Do you know what I mean? You're just like, that's what we're kind of working on. It's unbelievable.
I think that's like diving in Scotland or in the UK just doesn't interest me personally as
Although
like a pastime.
The local guy with his starfish enterprise, love it. See his underwater pictures. Have you seen them of what's out there in like the Clyde?
Yeah.
I find that fascinating, but just don't sneak up on me.
Yeah, a lot of people go to
don't
that
touch my toes.
What's that? Expedition?
The sugar boat.
Expedition is
the sugar ship.
That's his business.
Right,
I'll definitely try it this summer. That looks good.
I would definitely give that a go. Yeah.
There's loads of wrecks about here, which is what
because they do, and he does the bouncing bombs down in Loch Striven.
Right.
And they have them down. His footage is
amazing.
Brilliant.
Check it out on Facebook.
And they don't sneak up on you because you can just watch it.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Definitely.
From behind the screen.
Sneaky.
No. So I think you're better staying out the water. Just
stick to badminton.
Yeah.
Don't get a sail. A sail and I try and keep upright.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously we've known Rebecca quite a while, but Angela, we obviously didn't know you before today. But like I did say before, we did do a wee bit of the Facebook stalking, and so I obviously want to speak to you about your October challenge. Obviously the 100k in October, which was for breast cancer.
Breast cancer awareness, yes.
So how did you come up with your 100k? I mean, that's 100k is a lot.
I know, but then to be fair, now everybody's doing like the 5k a day, like Clyde 5k a day. 5k a day is a lot. I wasn't doing 5k a day just to get to get the 100k. I was like, every now and again, I've left it to the last minute again. I need to go twice today. That was the very last day. Oh,
how long day for you?
It was, the weather was horrific. But in hindsight, I should have just went on all the nice days. But no, I left it till the 31st of October.
Yeah.
Just I've got 50k to do.
I had 13 and a half.
13 and a half.
And it was brutal weather-wise. It was horrific.
I can imagine.
And then, anyway.
And like I was saying, you were, a lot of the times it was uphill. You know, you were up hills and that, weren't you?
Yes. But it's nicer up the hills, and it's softer underfoot, which is easier than taking a beating on the tarmac of just bang, bang, bang.
And did you run most of it? Did you find you ran most of it?
Yes.
That's good.
Only because you've got Strava.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. It's like you can't not.
Everybody's watching you.
Yeah, everyone's judging you on that.
Yeah. Oh God, look, she was slow today.
Getting judged on it.
Give me a break, I've just been poisoned.
Because you were going through treatment at the same time.
So I got my little chemo cocktail on Wednesday there too. So I go every 3 weeks and I get a little IV goodie bag. So the guys are in there just now going nom 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 nom, hopefully. Eating the bad guys. Well, that's what I like to think.
Yeah.
The visualisation.
Yes.
Yeah. Nom nom nom.
You're visualising it.
Nom 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 nom.
Definitely.
So every 3 weeks I go and get a little cocktail of goodies.
And so like that did you need to take like a good couple of days off before you ran again?
So
doing that,
usually I'll get poisoned on the Wednesday and I do not a lot on the Wednesday, not a lot on the Thursday, and then I suss out how we're doing the Friday.
Yeah.
But I'm not superhuman. Some days I'm like, I'm not even getting out of my bed.
Yeah. Just is it totally
But when I'm out of my bed, it's all right. I'm on quite nice stuff just now.
Right.
Because I can still function and I've not lost any of my hair, which the stuff I always think they give you the generic stuff first, and then when that stops working, they move you on to the next thing. And I always think the next things, I could be wrong, are slightly more expensive because they're a wee bit more advanced than we're just going to kill all the cells in your body, your hair's all going to fall out, you're going to lose your nails.
Yeah.
So I've been through that and then I progressed on those. So it's like, what do we give her now? Oh, right here, we'll need to give her this stuff.
Yeah.
So I like what I'm on just now.
Yeah.
When I went 6 weeks ago, everything was all bad. You've got 50% progression. We're going to have to change your treatment. But I like what I'm on, so at the minute I'm fighting to stay on what I'm on.
That's good.
Cause it's
so
nice.
have you got to stay in the matter then, like, in terms of what they're giving you?
Not really.
They kind of tell you what you need to take.
Because they've got, so you can get some things but not other things. And then when I got my treatment first time round, the NHS Scotland weren't giving you, it wasn't approved here, but you could get it in England. So I wrote to Nicola Sturgeon. I was like, oh, Nicola. I was like,
This is what I want.
I said, how come if I'm in England, south of the border, they can get this stuff and I can't? So I wrote to them, and the Scottish Medical Consortium did write back to me, and they said, oh, it's just been approved. Not because I wrote to her.
Just take the credit.
Not because I wrote to her, because somebody else has
An
probably
exclusive on this
fought.
podcast.
Somebody's probably fought all the way along. But so now people that have got the same kind of cancer as me, because there is so many different types, they now get what I couldn't get. And maybe I wouldn't be here as a stage 4 cancer survivor, fighter, if I'd got that first time round.
Yeah.
And then the stuff I'm getting just now, I met a lady this morning, and she's going to get that after her first load of treatment. So it is amazing. In like 3 years, it's such a short space of time, the treatment is so different. So she's now got a much better chance, and all those other women have got a much better chance of it not recurring, because that's 2
amazing
supersonic drugs that
That's
they're getting offered.
Find
that
amazing
3 years
how
ago
quickly things advance.
Mhm.
Like, you're only talking days, months, you know, a year, and even in a year so much can change, and so much is out there on offer from what there maybe was even when I was in hospital, or you know, the different things that you're going through.
It's crazy.
It just moves so quickly.
That's
so you're
probably why
almost, you're just buying yourself time almost all the time. You just think, well, you know, if it gets worse or it's back in a year, there could be so much more on offer than what there was before.
And that's where I'm just now. So I'm almost at the end of what I can have. So I'm now looking at trials and new things that are coming out and thinking, right, is it going to be available by the time I'm going to need it? So that's what I'm fighting just now, is
I've never, honestly,
something good on the horizon.
I've never thought of it that way, but I guess that's why it's so important to have all these charities that are constantly putting on charity events and raising money, because I guess that's why it can constantly be evolving and obviously coming out with new stuff, which is only going to
especially
help
for
people.
trials, because your trials are using people that have these cancers at the time, and they're using them to kind of test these drugs on. And there's a lot of people, you know, like yourself, if that was your next option, then you know, I know I would be willing to do a trial, no matter like at any
so I
cost.
ask her each time I say, is there any trials I can go on?
Do it,
You're happy to.
I was, when I couldn't get the drug that you could get in England, I was like, look, I'll go to Newcastle. I'll go.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me that. I was like, I'll pay for it myself.
Yeah.
You know, just give me the goodies.
You must get to that point though. So like, we'll go back a wee bit though. Like I was saying, obviously, with on your Facebook with these videos, I felt as if it taught people quite a lot, because I learned quite a lot even about you, and obviously about the type of cancer you have. So even if we kind of go back a wee bit more to the beginning, about maybe the cancer that you've got, and I guess how you came to finding out you had that.
So I'm currently a stage 4 breast cancer patient, I suppose. So 2017, I found a lump in my boobie, and I thought, oh, and I've always said that I'm really glad that I did something about it straight away. I don't know, for me, if I was one of those people that had, oh, I've got a wee lump, oh, I'll leave it and see how it gets on. You know, I'd done something about it straight away. So for me, I'd never have a regret of not doing anything. So I went straight away, went to the breast care clinic, and they were like, yep, it's a lump, we'll biopsy it. Came back, yeah, you've got cancer. I was like, right, okay. And we were talking about it yesterday, how different people respond.
Yeah.
Because I was like, right, okay, what do we do now? And I made that poor woman sit there, and she gave me a to-do list. Right, so this is what's going to happen, you know, you're going to do this, we're going to put a clip in to mark it. Because of the type I've got, I'm HER2 positive. So many different types of breast cancer. So I'm a HER2 positive. She said, you need chemo, there's no messing with it. You need it, so we're going to give you it straight away. Whereas different cancers, they can do your surgery first and then treat you with chemo.
Was that was it progressed? Was that reason? Was it further along?
So mine's is he's quite aggressive. So they're just going to poison him.
Right.
So we might as well, you're going to get chemo, so we're just going to give you it now. I was like, okay. And the thinking of that, I think, is that they maybe shrink it so they need to do less invasive surgery and then see how it gets on.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, to-do list. So she wrote me, right, and you'll be back to see me in 4 months, and then we'll talk about like surgery, and then you'll do your radiotherapy. I was like, right, okay, thanks. So I left with a tick list.
Your task list.
Whereas Rebecca said she went in and she was just like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, so how did that compare to your experience of maybe getting told that news?
I don't know how long, like when you found your lump, how long did you have
I was pretty
out?
soon. So I went and
So
I had a lump,
quite long.
and it was like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Or the next week I was over at the breast clinic, and then they took a biopsy and an ultrasound, and then they're like, right, come back next week and we'll give you your results, and then that was it, bang. And then because I was straight to chemo, next minute I was in a chair all hooked up, and the girl said, are you okay? And I just went, ah, because everything had happened so fast.
Yeah. And did I see maybe on your Facebook that was about 15 years ago you had a lump and you went and got it checked, but it was fine. It was nothing.
It was just a cyst, nothing. So my mum died of breast cancer.
Right.
So I've probably always had that. I don't have a wee feel, but I think you do anyway.
Yeah.
When you're having a wash.
Yeah.
It's always good to check, isn't it?
Is anything there?
Yeah. So not to put people off, that just if you do find something, it doesn't necessarily have to be something bad. But I would say go and get it checked, because your body is very clever, and if it's not happy, it tells you.
Obviously you did obviously go and get the one 15 years ago checked, and it was fine, so it's nothing.
Yeah.
See, the second time come around, did you have in your head, were you kind of hoping, I hope it's just the same again? Yeah. Or did you have
No.
Was that a shock when you did finally get the news?
And I went to the nurse that I went to see. You know, you phone the doctor and you can't see a doctor, we see a nurse. I'm like, yeah, I'll see anybody.
Yeah.
And I went back to see her, and she said, was it a shock? I thought, well, of course it was a shock.
What a question.
It's not like, I think I've got cancer today.
Expect that.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say yes.
So your mind didn't straight away jump to the worst conclusion because you'd had this experience before.
But I thought, lump, I'll go and get it checked.
And how long did they take to be able to tell you this? Was it a day? Was it that very same day they were able to check?
No, so you go and get a biopsy, and then some people, I remember sitting in the waiting room and it was like this, there was maybe more of us, and you're thinking, right, 1 in 3 people have got cancer.
I know that's
the number for that's obviously down because I'm in the breast cancer. So when you're looking round, like you saying,
which one of us?
You know, everybody in Dunoon was on the diving course.
That's it. Yeah, you're looking around.
So you're looking around and you're thinking, right, well, you know, there's 3 of us in here that's got cancer. I wonder who it's going to be, and you're still not thinking it's me.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at these other people, and people were coming out, and one woman, I had a cyst and they've just drained it right there and then. So I was like, well, it's not you then.
The percentages are getting worse.
The numbers are getting smaller.
Yeah, so it depends what you're going with. Like, she was in and out, had a cyst, had it drained, boom, away home. Whereas biopsies, they're like, not sure. They must know, but they don't tell you that.
Yeah.
No, they don't give away anything.
No.
Even if you kind of probe into it a wee bit, you're like, what do you think? And they'll say,
no.
Don't know. It could be this, it could be this. They give you like best case, worst case, but they'll never commit to it. Even if they know, and you can usually tell you know more than you're letting on, but you're not going to tell me right now.
Was it a wee bit different for you, Rebecca? Because obviously you had a completely different cancer.
Yeah, so I had acute myeloid leukemia, but thinking back to things now, so my leukemia evolved from MDS, which is called myeloid dysplasia syndrome. So it's basically like I have like a really faulty genetic mutation. So it's right in the roots of basically my DNA makeup. So what happens is you basically have one bad gene, and it then obviously rapidly develops, and it affects your kind of full blood counts. So some people can live with MDS for years and years. It's generally known as like a disease of the elderly, but there's more and more young people seem to be getting it now. But if you don't treat MDS or you don't keep an eye on it, sometimes you can live with it for years, sometimes it can develop rapidly, and if it's left too long without any intervention, then it can turn into AML, which is obviously leukemia. So mine obviously did. I knew very little about leukemia. I was obviously very naive to any kind of blood cancer or cancer related. You see it, but you never think that's going to be me that gets that, or someone in my family is going to get that. You always think it's going to be somebody else. So I had probably on and off for about 2 years. I kept getting really ill. I'd always have like a sickness bug. I'd have the flu or the cold, really bad infections that I couldn't shift. And it wasn't like me. I was always really active. I'd go to like a gym class 5 days a week, and I noticed more and more that I was really struggling. I was coming out of, I used to do like kettlebells, and I used to have bruises all up my arms, which I thought were from my kettlebells hitting my arms. That's what I put it down to, but it would never disappear. And it literally came down to one day in my house, I bent down to pick something up off the floor, and I stood up, and Johnny was standing next to me, and I held on to the side, and I was like, I feel really lightheaded, I feel that, and I laughed. I was like, I felt like I was going to pass out. And we totally were like, oh God, don't know what's wrong. And then over about 2 or 3 weeks, it got worse and worse. I would walk up the top of the stairs, and I'd have to stop at the top of the stairs in my house, which aren't that high. And I'd be really out of breath, and I would be really dizzy. My heart would be pounding like through my ears, and I just thought there's something not right. So I eventually went to the GP. They took my blood, and I had a hemoglobin of like a third of what a normal person should. So my blood was really, really low. They phoned me like the same day, and he said, he's like, that's the lowest hemoglobin I've seen in my surgery. So they started treating me, I think this was in the April, no, this must have been in the February, and they started treating me for a B12 deficiency, because that can lead you to have low hemoglobin.
Yeah, so at this point, there's still no
so there's still no indication of anything else. And they had me in every 2 weeks getting these B12 shots, and then what they do is they hope to see like a rise in your hemoglobin over a few weeks. That went on for 2 months, and at this point I was just getting worse and worse and worse, and my hemoglobin was dropping instead of getting better. And basically they told me at one point there was no sign of cancer, there was no sign of anything dodgy.
Which must have made you feel a lot better, you know, like thinking, okay, well at least we've ruled that out.
I actually
Did you ever suspect it was going to be cancer like throughout all of this at any point?
I did towards the end, because I couldn't get anywhere with my GP, and I know they're under pressure, and I would never fault them for the work that they're doing, but they totally missed what was going on with me, which meant that I was basically undiagnosed for 4 months, and at that point it had turned to leukemia. So the GP had obviously said, we don't know what's going on here. So instead of seeing me, I was actually seeing him every week at that point. Instead of seeing me every week, we'll just see you every 2 weeks. And I said, but I'm getting worse.
Wow. So
why are you pushing, that seems crazy. And I spoke to obviously my mum and dad and Johnny, and then we decided, we'll just go and see a doctor privately. Just pay. You're not going to just see what they say, what their opinion is. And I went up to Ross Hall, and I was actually sitting outside Ross Hall just about to go in, and my GP phoned, and he said, look, I've spoken to haematology in Inverclyde, and they've ruled out any sort of cancer. So at that point I was like,
massive relief. Okay,
great, at least it's not that. And I almost didn't go in for my Ross Hall appointment, because I thought, but I carried on, and I thought, we'll just go, I've got nothing to lose. And I went in, and I seen them a couple of times, and on the second or third time I went in, I actually seen like a gastroenterologist of all people, like deals with stomachs. And he said, I have a friend who's a haematology consultant, let me speak to him. And he straight away, he came back to me like within a few days and said, you need to go to haematology, there is something not right here. Wow. So if it hadn't been for me paying to go privately and seeing a totally random doctor, I never would have probably been pushed on. By that point, they took me in for like an emergency bone marrow, and again, this must have been going into June. They took a bone marrow. They came back and they said we need to take another one. So it takes 2 weeks to process a bone marrow. So that was another 2 weeks lost, and they said we need to do another one because we couldn't actually you get a trephine, which is the bone, and you get an aspirate, which is the marrow out of it, which looks like a blood sample. And my bone marrow was so bad and basically so dried up that they couldn't get any marrow out my bones at all.
Wow.
So it was basically, it was like just so low. The regeneration of everything in my system was so low at that point.
It almost stopped.
So that was June, and then a couple of days later, I think that was maybe like the start of the week, and they phoned me on a Friday. I was kind of trying to carry on by this point, but I was really unwell. But we were setting up a barbecue at work to try and take my mind off it.
Yeah.
And they phoned and they said, you need to come over straight away. This is like a Friday afternoon. And I said to my dad and Johnny, I was like, we need to go to Inverclyde. And we went over, but like you, they take you in the room and the nurse comes in with you, and I thought, this isn't great, because the consultant needs somebody with them to give you the bad news. And they just said, we thought originally maybe it wasn't as bad, but actually you've got AML. And I just was like that.
At that point, did you know what AML was?
Yeah, so by that point I had almost diagnosed myself. So I had said to Johnny,
You're on Google and
I
stuff
was going
like
to
that.
say Dr. Google.
I don't usually
One of the
Google.
worst, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
usually Google stuff, but by that point I could barely get showered or dressed in the morning without thinking I was going to pass out. I had so many terrible symptoms that I knew something really wasn't right. And by going to like haematology, I was in Inverclyde for a couple of days as well, and I kind of knew the direction. I was able myself to rule out a lot of things that I knew it wasn't. And I had said to Johnny, I've got MDS. I think I've got MDS. But obviously your family and your partner are like, no, don't be silly. It won't be that. It won't be that.
Yeah.
Trying to be like positive, and needless to say, that's what I had. So I'd hoped that it hadn't progressed to AML, but also by the time that I got diagnosed, it had went further. So yeah,
Did you almost like prepared yourself for that news beforehand?
I don't know if you can ever prepare yourself.
Yeah.
I knew, but I think in your head you always think, I think it's this, but hopefully not. Please don't be this. Please don't be this.
So what kind of like, so you do get given that news, obviously you never think it's going to be you.
Yeah.
What goes through your head straight away? What is the thing that, like, what does go through your head
I think
straight
we were
away?
slightly different. Like I was obviously sitting here, the doctor was in front of me, the nurse was there, and my dad and Johnny were there, and he said, oh, you've got AML, you've got acute myeloid leukemia. And I went, I don't even know if I said anything, but my poor dad went grey, and Johnny just jumped off his seat and came and like sat next to me, and I was like, all right, okay, what do I do now? And they were like, so I was a bit different. That was the Friday, and they said on a Tuesday you're going to go to the beats and that'll be you. We don't know how long for. And I was like, so how long do you think? Like, what's going to happen? Like with my work in my house, I've got a dog. And they were like,
so you straight away went to like more all your practical things.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, oh God, how long? What do I do? How long do I pack for? And he's like, you're going to be at least 6 weeks. Could be longer. Like, we just don't know. So all I could think was, he started trying to tell me, the consultant was starting to try to explain, you know, your body's made up of building blocks and your blood's made up of building blocks, and this is how AML works. And, you know, imagine it like a truck that comes along, and all I could think of was, oh, please get me out. I was just like,
taking in absolutely nothing.
Yeah, taking in nothing, and all I wanted to do was run out of that hospital, and I had to sit and I had to get my bloods done, and the nurse was trying to, the nurse was like, maybe we can get Rebecca back next week for bloods, maybe this isn't the right time, but the consultant wanted it done, so I had to sit and go and get different things done, and the nurse was really upset. I actually felt really bad for her. She's like, are you okay? Oh God, it's terrible, and she didn't really know what to say. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I just want to go out of here. And we literally got out of the hospital, and I remember it was a really nice day, and I stood in the car park and I just burst into tears, and I was like, what am I going to do? What's happening? Am I going to die? Like all the kind of question, like you just go into it. It's like, what is it? Flight or fight? Yeah.
They don't tell you. I always think that nobody gives you their opinion, so it's not
No.
like you can't ask them, am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
Because they won't say.
They always
you're
give
gonna
you
be
some
fine.
convolute. You just want somebody to say
It's
yes,
going to be
we're going to
okay.
fix it,
Impossible
but
to say, isn't it?
they're just like dead professional and
Yeah.
about it, like, or clinical, I think.
I thought you were saying,
It's like
what
no
about my job, what about work?
compassion. Yeah.
I was giving her the, right, but what, will I still be able to go skiing? That was my
Yeah.
chat to her.
Really?
And she was like, and I was like, right, okay. So when she was giving me my to-do list, I was like, right, so what's that? That'll be like February, so I could still
Fit in a
ski.
skiing holiday.
And they're looking at me, and she was like, and then you've got radiotherapy, and I was like, right, April, I could catch the ski season in April, and they were looking at me thinking,
She lost it.
This isn't going in. She's not got a
Yeah.
grip of this.
This is going
what's
to hit
about
her
to
further down the
happen.
road.
Yeah.
But I skied halfway through my whole thing. I had a half day and went to Glencoe. I was like,
Quite
I
right.
did
Got
it. I
it.
did it.
Told
you I was
I
gonna
did
get it.
I told you I was going skiing.
Oh, quite, that's good. So, with yourself, did you need to go to the Beatson as well, or were you able to
No.
still go home and
So
just...
I met Rebecca, and so
Let's do
Inverclyde.
that, actually, yeah, that was
That
my
was
first.
was that your day of
that-
getting bad news?
That was my first bone marrow. So I went up. They take you up into Inverclyde. I went for my bone marrow, and I walked in. They said, "Oh, you might be here all day. Don't know how long." Obviously, like a bone marrow's, you get used to it, but it's not that pleasant, especially not the first
Yeah.
time. It's like, especially if you look at things on Google, which I did back then. I try not to anymore, but so I was totally terrified of what was going to happen. I went in, I had a wee rucksack and stuff on. I
Fully
sat fully prepared, and my dad was there, and my dad and Johnny, and I sat in the seat, and then I turned around and I was like, "There's Angela and Stuart." I recognised them from Dunoon, and I was like, "Oh, this is awkward." You never expect to see people from Dunoon when you're doing all that kind of stuff.
How well did you know each other before
Well,
that?
I didn't. I knew
Not
your
really,
sister,
yeah.
so I knew your younger sister from Summer Fun,
Yeah,
and then I knew your mum because she was in the
Yeah.
arena. And I had never met your dad, I don't think. And so Stuart and I were sitting there, and you look quite like Laura, but you don't want to say, "Is that?" And you don't want to just say, "Hiya," just in case it's not.
yeah,
So it wasn't until you must have like, and I said,
yeah,
"Are they from Dunoon?" And Stuart's like, "Oh, I think so."
yeah,
And then I think when I was away, he must have spoke to your dad, I think.
yeah. I think he did.
And it was like,
so. I
And
know.
did
It's
you
like the
s-
waiting room that nobody wants to
No,
be in.
no one
Yeah.
wants to say,
Hi.
"Hi, how are you?" Because you just don't know.
You're in F South.
It's not a good word.
Is that like in that waiting room? Do you know everyone in that waiting room is now in for treatment? It's no
So
longer.
F South and Inverclyde. So and I through the whole COVID thing, F South and Inverclyde is run by the Beatson,
Right.
which is brilliant because none of the nurses there were redeployed. You know, when everything was scrabbling, they take everything from the Beatson. So my oncologist comes to Inverclyde on a Wednesday, which is nice. It saves me having to travel. So they're all like, it's like the Beatson level.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah.
So when I went in, I went up to, they said, "Oh, you go to haematology," and then the first thing that hit me was, "This is an oncology ward," and I said to the nurse, I was like, "Why am I on an oncology ward?" Because obviously at this point no one was like, "Oh, you might have cancer, by the way." So she said, "Oh, we're just here because haematology's in here as well," and I thought, I don't think that's the truth.
But it is haematology and oncology.
Yeah.
They're in the same
It's bad
bit.
haematology sometimes.
There's no
isn't
beds,
it?
it's all chairs.
Yeah, you sit in a chair.
Oh,
It's a
really?
fancy chair. Yeah, no beds. F South.
Yeah.
So how did they treat, like, so how did it start the treatment for yourself? So was it straight, you were saying straight away it was
Yeah.
into like quite strong
So I was
chemotherapy?
like, yeah, straight into the old, it's like, I wish I'd taken a photo of them. You see other people, maybe I'll say, "Do you mind if I take a picture of that?" But they're like giant syringes of bright red, the colours,
Yeah.
you don't know what that's, it's like epirubicin or something. And a woman sits and they inject it into you, which is quite a nice thing because there's somebody holding your hand.
Yeah.
And they're squeezing these, there's like 3 of these giant
poisons.
syringes to go in. But it's quite nice because there's somebody there.
Yeah. Keeping you
So
company.
I got 3 of those. So I was down for 6. So I was supposed to get 3 of them and 3 docetaxels, and these are the hair stripping. So I cold capped,
What does that mean?
which means I used to go and get, it was a bit like a riding helmet thing, I suppose.
Like a head,
And
swimming
they
cappy type
freeze
thing,
your
isn't it?
head. and so it's like gel, and then they put this neoprene hat on it and it straps under your chin so you look like a big hamster. And they pump, it's like an ice cream headache, they pump ice around your head and it freezes your hair follicles so that the chemo doesn't get to them.
Wow.
So that you keep your hair.
That was a thing.
I never knew that was a thing.
And I don't, Stuart was like, look, just be a big baldy. I was like, no. And I don't know whether it's a vanity thing, but I didn't want people to look at me with pity. Oh,
No.
bless,
I
look
get
at her
it,
with
yeah.
a note. Oh, I didn't want that. So I always think through everything, I've always looked like me,
Yeah.
which, touch, nice wood. Lovely.
Nice.
Is it real wood?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very
Elm.
nice.
I think elm.
Oh, elm. Oh, it's very nice.
That's it, that. Yeah.
Oh, I'll just really rub it in. That I haven't lost my hair. It thinned an awful lot, and I was shown there's a woman in Dunoon that's going in the hospital. She's got the exact same, well, she's first time round, so hopefully she'll be better. But she's getting all the goodies that I couldn't get, and she's going in on Monday. And I was saying to her, yeah, I lost like this bit of hair, and it grew back in. But it's, yeah. So I got 3 of the nasty ones, and then I got 2, and then it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. So they were like, right, let's just go and get the bad guy out. I was like, okay.
So they try and keep the bad guy, the worst one, for as long as they can. They try and not use that in the beginning. Last resort. Yeah.
Which, the nasty stuff?
Yeah.
No, it must be cheap as chips. That's what they
Yeah.
dish out to anybody. That's why you see all these baldies cruising about, because
It's
it's
like
like,
your
give
Did you
them
get that
cheap
option,
stuff.
Rebecca, to like kind of freeze the hair? Because I know
No,
you cut your
so
hair off, didn't you?
You
Before
can't
it
use
got
a
to that
cold
stage.
cap for blood cancer.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, you
not,
can't?
no, because with blood cancer, it's in your cells that are everywhere. So the cells are also in your head. So if you freeze it, then it's freezing. It's basically, it's preserving these cells, and these cells in my head, because it's in my blood,
The damaged
could be
cells.
bad cells.
Right, I get
So
you.
for blood cancer, you can't use a cold cap. I would use a cold cap if I'd had an option,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I didn't have that option. But I was lucky because the chemo that I went on, you didn't actually lose your hair. So the chemo that I had initially, you didn't lose your hair. It was only when I went for my transplant, they hit me with the really nasty hard stuff, and that my hair was going then.
So even with like the leukemia, did they start with chemo? Is that
Yeah.
what they start with? Hopefully they
Yeah.
want to just get rid of it that way.
Yep. So they try to get, the aim for blood cancer is to get people into remission. So I'd say the majority of people that have blood cancer will become candidates for transplant maybe at some point. So they start with chemo. If they can get you into remission, then they obviously look at your bone marrow. If it's out of your bone marrow, then they wouldn't do a transplant first time around, I don't imagine. If they can get you into remission and it's out of your kind of actual blood cells, but they take a bone marrow and there's still a genetic mutation, or it's still visible within the bone marrow, then they look to do a transplant. Obviously, if they could have got rid of it in my marrow, then I would have been in remission and they would have left me without a transplant. And if it had relapsed, then they would have put me forward for a transplant, but they couldn't get rid of it. Although they could get rid of it in my normal blood counts, they couldn't get rid of it in my marrow. So it was still there and it was still present. So that's why they said, no, we'll push on with transplant.
So like obviously you were kind of told that you were going to need to go into the beach for the like at least, was it 3 weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
What is like the first day like in there? Like, so going in there for the first day, what is it like?
It was really weird. I think as soon as I was told, I kind of went into like survival mode. So I went home and I sorted it. I'm really organised, so I'm like, right, I need to have all these jobs in the house finished. I need to go into work and I need to have all this stuff finished and passed over, you know, my workload and everything that I do, passed over and distributed to other people. So we basically for 3 days ran about mad doing all this stuff so that I felt organised and happy to go in. I needed to get my dog a dog sitter for the foreseeable future so that Johnny could be at the hospital. So I had everything organised and I was ready to go, and then we drove there on the Tuesday morning and I just cried the whole way. And
It was really starting to hit you.
yeah, just
Was
really,
was like organised and all that stuff kind of keeping your mind off
I
of
think
it a
it
little
just
bit?
yeah, it totally took over. I just went into like, let's go, right, let's bang, 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 everything done, and then cried the whole way. And then I was like, sitting outside. I don't want to go in. I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this.
Have a bit of a meltdown outside.
Yeah. And Johnny's like, we have to do it. You have to do it. So we went in, and they're really nice. They're really compassionate, and the beats in. They're totally understanding. And then you go in and you get a bed, and there's 5 other people. I was in a 6 room. And yeah, you just kind of get settled in. You've got like a cabinet to put your stuff in, and you unpack your wee bag. This is not a good hotel stay.
Yeah,
I remember you saying,
this is not good.
Where you are, the other people in the room were all at different stages of
Yeah.
a similar thing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you could look to the future of,
Wow.
right,
Yeah.
there's a week's time, right, there's 2 weeks' time.
And I unfortunately had a girl in my room that was quite unwell, and she had AML, and it did terrify me, because I almost thought, I was like, is that me in weeks, months? Because obviously at that point I didn't have the option to. Some people get like outpatient treatment for AML, so well, depends how advanced it is, but by the point that I went in, I would reckon I was probably only maybe a couple of weeks away from dying if I was lucky. I was so unwell at that point, so it was very much you're in and you get started. And I think I had a couple of days where you get like I think I had a week to settle in, and they give you like a settle into the hospital week, and they run a whole load of tests and check your genetics, and then
Before they get into the treatment.
But I had no time for. They kind of said you don't have time for
A
like
week.
freezing eggs or any kind of stuff like that. We basically just have to start this as soon as possible. So that was it. See, after that you just get on with it. There's nothing.
Did you
nothing
know?
else.
Did you know, like, oh, if I'd left this, I'd be dead in 3 weeks' time?
They pretty
they
much
say
said
that?
we need to start this now. Like, this is really bad, and the fact that they also said we can't even get any marrow out of you. It's that it took them 3 bone marrow attempts to be able to draw enough of an aspirate out of me, to have a look at like the genetics and things like that behind it. So
in total, how long do you think you were untreated for? Like, was it about 4 or 5 months, something like that?
probably 4 months, and that was at the point where I was bad enough to go to the doctors. I had obviously had symptoms before that, and when I was thinking about it not long ago actually, I was talking to my friend, and about maybe 6 years ago, this sounds crazy, but about 6 years ago, I stood up in the bathroom and I hit my back on the door handle, and I had a bruise, and it never went away. And since I've had my treatment, it's gone. So I could have had maybe MDS. I could have had, the initial stages of it for years and years, and it's just went undiagnosed. And it's not till it's got really, really bad, like to the leukemia stage, that I've picked up on it.
Yeah, you start having a lot more physical symptoms as well, in terms of like the lightheadedness and all that sort of stuff, and almost a bit like fatigue almost.
Yeah, it was terrible. I basically, the week before I went into hospital, I could barely get out of my bed. I had such low blood. They didn't want to give me a transfusion because they wanted to see your blood, and how it is before they treat it. So, but they ended up giving me a transfusion because I basically couldn't do anything. Like, my blood level was so low, I couldn't walk up 2 stairs, never mind anything else.
That's unbelievable.
So, yeah.
So were you saying that Johnny, your partner, was he able to stay with you in the beach, or would he just stay all day and then? He
would just come up, usually in the afternoon. He would try and go to work in the morning, then he'd come up in the afternoon. Can't have anybody staying. You can have someone with you during transplant. You could before COVID. I don't think you are allowed anymore. I'm not sure what the rules are now, but in the beats, and it was just they could have people in, I think, till maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. So he would come up in the afternoon, and that was it. So yeah, I was lucky enough to make some really good friends in there. It's a weird place to make friends, but there was kind of 6 of us all together through different stages, and there was always one of us in with another one at some point of our treatment, so that really keeps you going, because you need these people to make you laugh and keep you going. You know,
to each other.
Yeah, when your family leaves at the end of the night and you're sitting there on your own, you need these people to keep you going, especially when you're in hospital for 6 weeks and you're not allowed to leave the ward once your cell count drops. You're not allowed to leave the room. You're not even allowed to go outside or anything. So you're pretty much trapped.
Yeah, because I'd imagine, like, knowing that you were going to go into the hospital for like 6 weeks, initially I would think, oh, it'd be amazing to have your own room and all that sort of stuff, so you can have private time and your family could just come and stuff. But it's actually probably better to be in one of the wards with other people more for the support.
I think when I was in the Beatson, I preferred being in a room with other people. It was tough sometimes, because there is times where you just want your own space. But I was quite lucky that those girls were there and we kind of kept each other going throughout it. I wasn't hugely unwell when I was in the Beatson. I didn't get massively difficult side effects from the kind of chemo side of it. But when I went in for transplant, I became really unwell, and you have your own room in the Queen Elizabeth. And I was glad of it then. There's no way I would have been able to socialise with anybody or anything. I was just happy to be on my own and not be in a ward with other people.
So you had to go for a transplant because the chemotherapy didn't work?
Yeah.
And so were you kind of hoping, you kind of told at the beginning that, okay, if this doesn't work, we're then going to need to go for a transplant, and were you kind of hoping you wouldn't have to go through that process at the beginning, thinking, okay, hopefully this gets sorted?
Yeah, they kind of always... They kind of said, oh, you know, further down the road we'll look at transplant. So I always knew that it was going to be something that might happen, or obviously it was an option for me. And then the more my chemo went on, and they said, yeah, it's out your blood, you're in remission from your blood counts, but when we look at your bone marrow, it's still there, and it's not there a little bit, it's really present, right on the surface. And then what they do is, there's a lot of kind of genetic coding and things like that, way beyond my intelligence.
Yeah, you're not going to sit here and pretend to be a scientist.
Like. They do in the background, and they basically use all the markers in your DNA, and they check your genetics, and they can determine how your leukemias came about. So I think this was when I was going through my second round of chemo. They basically said to me, you have a genetic mutation, this is not going to go away with standard chemotherapy, so transplant is your only option. There is no other option.
So what is the transplant? What are you, is it the cells?
Yeah, so I had a allogenic transplant, so you can get 2 types of transplant. One which is your own cells, so what they do is they take your own, it's basically just like giving blood almost, and they draw all your own cells out, and then they use these machines to basically clean them. And then they give you them back. So people with maybe like a lymphoma will have their own cells back, but your own cells I don't think they're strong enough to fight a leukemia. So if you've got a leukemia, you need to wait for a match off the register. So they obviously go to like a sibling first of all. So my sister was tested, but amazingly your family member can only be like a 50% match. So they could have used that, but then they checked the register first of all, and there was somebody that was, I think he was an 80% match for me.
Wow. Which
was much higher. If you take somebody that's too low a match, then you can get a lot, there's more severe side effects during your transplant. It's a lot more dangerous to match with somebody that has a lesser percentage of match. So
is that because your body's saying, whoa,
yeah,
it
starts to fight it basically. So I was really lucky. I had a male German donor. He was 23 years old, and he was matched to me. So
how long did that take to get you a match?
It was quite quick, touchwood, compared to some people. Obviously, there's some people that have to wait and wait and wait. This guy was there on the register already. Wow. So that's amazing, because there's some people that are waiting months, years for a match. Some people don't ever get a match. So I was really, really lucky. Forever in debt to that person. I think I was only maybe 3 months from start to finish of them saying, yeah, we've got a donor, and then they obviously have to contact the donor and ask if they're willing to still donate, because sometimes, someone might turn around and say, oh, my circumstances have changed, or their medical position could have
So
changed and can't do it.
can we all be donors? So it's like...
Yeah, so everyone can sign up to be a donor. There's 2 different charities that do it. So there's Anthony Nolan, but you have to be under 30 years old to register for Anthony Nolan. Or there's a European company called DKMS. I think the limit for that's 55. So my donor came through DKMS. So yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
And they basically...
What do you actually need to do, like, when you're given?
How soon,
yourselves?
and how soon do they have to do it before you get them?
So they done all the legal bits and pieces with him. He went in, and it's literally, again, it's like giving blood.
Mm-hmm.
I think years ago they used to take it. They actually used to put people to sleep and take it, I think, or they used to do it out of your actual bone marrow.
Right.
So that's a lot bigger procedure, which some people might have, change their
Yeah,
mind
put
and
a lot
thought,
in.
I
When
don't...
you see the size of that needle coming at you,
I don't know about this.
Somewhere I've got to be.
Nowadays they just do it from like a line in your arm, I think it is, and they draw it from them. I'm guessing they clean it all out and they process it, and then it comes over. So I think I had to have it within, I think it was a few days of him giving it, and then it came to me, and then that was it.
Do they prepare you in any sort of way? Do they need to prepare your body in any sort of way to be able to take the new cells?
So I'd had 6 rounds of chemotherapy already, which was it was like a novel chemotherapy that I had, a bit like the stuff that you've probably got. I was the first person in Scotland to receive, it's called CPX, and it was like a brand new chemotherapy. Obviously one of the benefits was that people didn't lose their hair, they didn't have like really bad side effects from it. So I had that already in the Bletherin, and then when I went for my transplant I had another round of chemotherapy, and I also had 8 rounds of full body radiotherapy. So did you have radiotherapy? You did. So where yours is maybe targeted on one area, they frazzle your whole body for me. So
whereas you've now just got a tan.
I had a full, honestly, see the tan. My mum and dad would come in and I'd be like, look at all these freckles. I think I've actually picked up a tan from this radiotherapy.
Well, I've got a tan line because it's so targeted.
I've got all these freckles that I never had before. So it's
like an extreme sunbed.
It's a super extreme sunbed. So for me, I had to lie in. So it's
like UV light, and you go in these goggles.
You got the goggles.
And you lie in a bed.
I had to lie in like a box, and they put these perspex guards in between you, and when you're getting full body radiotherapy, you have to lie within like this weird pose, like line, and you can't move, and you've got your legs up, and they turn you different ways, because obviously they're trying to kill all the cells, top to bottom, everywhere.
And so was there a stage where you were in hospital? Like I think I was reading a wee bit up about it, but is there a stage where you can almost need to be isolated from everything in case because your immune system would be next to nothing? Yeah. So in the Bletherin, as soon as your white cell counts or your neutrophils go to, I think probably below 5, then they say, right, you're not allowed out the ward. And in the Queen Elizabeth, it's even stricter. You're not allowed out your room. So you're in your room, you're not allowed to pass that, and you basically can't come out until, hopefully once you get your stem cells, everything starts reproducing for itself. But obviously that can take, I think it took maybe 2.5 weeks for me. But even during that point, after I had my radiotherapy, I started to get really bad side effects. I probably found that worse than the chemotherapy. I was just really ill. By that point, obviously my hair had totally gone as well and things like that. And they're doing all these other things at the same time. They're filling you with fluid to protect different organs in your body. And I was retaining far too much fluid. So I was massive. I couldn't walk. Like all my skin was tight. My legs had swollen up to about 3 times the size because I couldn't get rid of any of this.
You got photos?
Fluid, yeah. Do you want? I'll show you if you want.
We'll put them up on the screen just now.
But yeah, by that point I was too unwell to really even care what was happening.
So concerns, isn't
vanity, vanity, I would assume, just completely goes out the window.
Yeah, there's a lot of, poor Johnny, there's probably a lot of things he's seen that he didn't doesn't ever want to remember.
Even now, I go across and I'm taking my clothes off before they've even shut. Oh wait, no, shut the curtains. I'm like,
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
I know
It's
everybody's
gone.
had a poke and a
Yeah.
prod, you know.
Yeah.
You must just become that way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously speaking about Johnny, even obviously both your partners, how do you feel as if it affected them? Did they ever like tell you maybe how that affected them at all? Like seeing you in these certain situations. Have you ever had that conversation with them?
Yeah, I've never asked Johnny like how was it for you. I was always more concerned about other people, and you know, I would, if I was having a really bad day, you know, my mum's a mum, she always wanted to come up, she would have been there every day if she could, but there were some days I just thought I don't want people to see me. At that point I was really, you know, I look like me now, but I looked like maybe what people would call like a stereotypical kind of unwell cancer patient at that stage, and I didn't want people to see me like that. Like, not even, it was bad enough for me that Johnny was having to see it every day and stay on a lie down bed with me for 6 weeks and take me to the toilet and all this kind of stuff. Like, I thought the less people that have to see me like this, because it's not nice for them either, I don't think. And I was more worried about other people being upset than what I was going through.
I do. I think it's like tits and teeth. You're always like, oh,
Yeah.
how you feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling great,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's happening to me and it affects everybody.
Yeah.
But you try and lessen it for them, and I'll be fine. And off you go and do whatever you were going to do.
Yeah.
So if you turn around and say, no, actually I'm terrible today, I mean, it's not really of any benefit to anybody, I don't think.
No.
I think if someone says to you, how are you? Yeah, fine.
But that's just how I am.
Yeah.
I
think some people need support from other people, whereas I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Da-da.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm like. I suppose like we're probably lucky enough to have a lot of support, a good support base. There is probably people out there that don't have a lot of people around them, and maybe the people that they do bump into in the street, that is a good support for people.
Neither of us have got a family.
Yeah.
Having to go through this and looking after young kids must be horrific.
Yeah.
You know,
terrible.
We could focus on us and this is what I need to get up and get washed today.
Yeah.
And not I need to get up,
get the whole family
and wash
out
these
and
3 guys
and,
and feed them and do this. I was like, right, I've just got to get out my pyjamas today. That's a win. You know,
put my clothes on and I'm winning at life.
So that it is, I suppose, puts everything in perspective of just I'm getting dressed today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That
good.
is
You
an
only
amazing
need to focus on yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm going
It's a big
outside
enough task in
today.
itself,
And then he's had quite a good support bubble round you
Yeah.
as well.
And having the time to yourself instead of looking after somebody else must be horrific.
No,
Yeah.
100%.
Just
So maybe
hard
go back to obviously your journey a wee bit. So you'd obviously you'd had the news that it was breast cancer and you were going to start the chemo.
Yeah.
I guess at that point you're still really, really positive that it's going to be working, and you're like, okay, we can get rid of this quick, hopefully.
So I went in, I got my to-do list. I was like, right, what's going to happen? She was like, yep, bang, bang, bang. And that's exactly what happened. If ever I was thinking, oh, what's next? I described it as eating an elephant. You know, like, I didn't want to know what was happening in the future. It was just like, just tell me what's happening now and I'll deal with that. You know, I don't want to see that it's a big elephant I'm eating. I'm just going to eat a toenail, having a toenail, having a bite.
What's right in front of you.
One day
That
at a
guy's
time.
gone.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look at the end, and then I got to the end of the list and I was like, yeah, I'm there. Woo, ring my bell.
Yeah.
Woo, I'm through it all. And then...
So you got to the point it was gone?
So I had a ball. No, I didn't. But everything, she's like, oh, only 10% of people have ever got to come back. I was like, oh yeah, that's me. Hi.
you thought straight away.
That was operation number
I'm
one.
in the minority, that's me.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're just going to go in and we'll take the bad bit out. You know, only 10% of people ever have to come back. They do a cavity shave, so they take the bad guy out and then they shave the bit around the outside, and then they take it and the guy looks at it and says, oh yeah, that's all good, we've got it. Well, yeah, not me. They're like, oh yeah, we've shaved a bit off. Oh yeah, we're going to have to go and get a bigger bit. I was like, right, okay. Anyway, so I went through, I had the chemo, I ended up with 4 operations. So I had 2, I went from a lumpectomy, and then they're like, oh, we've not got it. we'll go in again, we'll take a bigger bit. I was like, right, okay. Luckily I had a big set of boobies. So they could keep going in. They were like, right, we'll take another bit. And then I went back so I went in for an operation. I would get the results the next week, and then I'd be back in the week after, right, we'll take another bit. I was like, right, okay. And then after the second time, she was like, right, we've not got it. We can go in again. I was like, do you know what? Just take it. So I had a mastectomy and a reconstruction, and then maybe not because of the type that I chose, but I got a wee pigskin. It was beautiful, a wee acervial dermal matrix.
Oh my God.
And my sister's like, oh, it's like a wine gum, your body's eating it. So it's a bit of pigskin. So they tucked, just for nothing's out of bounds here.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So your pec muscle, so they lift it up and they poke the implant in there, and then they made it a wee hammock so that it didn't fall out in the street.
Fall out in the street.
It's the last thing you want to happen is it fall out in the street.
And then it got infected because it's something different to your body.
Yeah.
But my sister's like, oh, it's all that gelatin in the wine gum. Your body's went, a snack, come. So I ended up with a hole in it, so it had to get washed out. So that was 4 operations I had, which delayed the radiotherapy because you've got healed so far. And then I had 3 weeks of radiotherapy. And then because of the type I got Herceptin, which is like the wonder drug. So I got jabbed in the leg with that for a year. And then that finished so I was diagnosed November 2017. So 2018, and then January 2019, that was me finished. I got my Herceptin jab. That was me done. So I was sent
You
off.
ought to ring the bell as well.
I didn't ring the bell then.
Did you not?
It's just like, yeah, thanks girls. I'll see you again.
I was about to say, is it one of this amazing
later.
moment that you ring it and
No,
it was just kind of ringing as you went past?
it was just like,
Hit it.
all right, girls, thanks. See you after. And then I got married in March.
I seen that on Facebook actually, the pictures of that in Benmore, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That
got
was
married in the
beautiful.
Avenue, and then it was something like 5 weeks later I was back in this guy's office, and he was like, oh yeah, you've got stage 4 cancer and it's spread. I was like, oh, all right, okay, thanks.
So how like what made you have to go back? Was it just something you had to keep going back? It was
No,
an
so
appointment?
when I was done, I thought I was done. That's like you saying, oh, you were finished, you were cured. I went in first time round thinking, I'm going to be healed. I'm going to...
Yeah.
I had my to-do list. I had my check, tick, tick,
Once
tick.
you
I had
ticked
passed
it
all
off,
the...
that's it.
I had done it. Right, I've done that. Are we good to go? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, you're all done.
Do I get my free pass?
But I had a lymph node on the opposite side, and it was hard, like a wee bean. And I thought, that's funny. And it does. It just feels like a wee jelly bean.
Yeah.
And I was like, And I went back to see them. And the nice thing, once you've been in the system, I didn't go to the doctor, I just phoned the surgeon. I was like, look, I've got this lump.
You can go direct.
So cut out the middleman, boom.
Or down
I was
the
like,
dial.
here, I've got this lump. So I went over to see them, and he was like, no, it looks totally normal, we'll ultrasound it. So we ultrasounded it, looks normal. I was like, right,
That's what you want to hear.
And then it was still there, and I was like, look, this guy's getting harder. I went back over, ultrasound, no, he looks totally normal, don't panic. But at the same time, I got this bruise on my skin. So I went back, I was like, look, this guy's still here, and I've got this bruise on my skin. And when I went over, he was like, he's like, here, hold my coat.
Never a good thing. Hold my coat.
Hold my coat, I'm just going to take a biopsy of this here. But instead of the nice wee ear piercing punch biopsy, it's like, here, hold my coat. And he just goes in with me 3 stitches later. And they just took a wee sample of it. And that was when I went back the next week. It had spread to my skin. And while I was in there, he had a feel of this guy, and he was like, oh, we'll just
Double check.
we'll just biopsy that while you're here. I was like, all right, cheers. And then I was back the week later, and I had a recurrence, so it spread to my skin. And this wee guy had came, so he made me stage 4. So I think if you get a recurrence, it's still classed as a primary breast cancer, and they can still treat you. So I went into that one. I was like, right, so do we chop him out?
Yeah.
Go get him.
You're going to same again?
What do we do? You know, where's my list?
Back
And he said, and like you saying, we were talking about this yesterday, you go in, there's a nurse.
Yeah.
I know, this guy was on his own.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
Positive.
Stuart
So
and I, we
that's
were like,
a good sign. If the consultant's on his own, you're like, right, this is okay.
So I went
Yes.
in,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, that's a spread. I was like, right, so do you want to go and get him?
Yep.
And he said, oh, we don't operate on stage 4. He said, we just put you back into oncology.
So I learned this from your videos that you put up on Facebook, that stage 1, 2 and 3 can be treated, and then your stage 4 is then
spread.
untreatable, but you're just trying to manage it at that point.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people. So I left that meeting with him, and the hope had gone. The hope of my to-do list to start with.
Total different experience then.
I was like, what do you mean you don't? What do you mean? There's no.
What do we do now?
Where I want my list.
Yeah.
What do we do? Yeah, I just felt like I was cast aside as no hope. That's me.
Really?
Off you go to die.
Yeah.
We'll just keep poisoning you until you die, or the chemo kills you. Something's going to get you. See you after. I was like, okay, thanks.
So how do you think that, so you were obviously really positive the first time, you had the distractions of, okay, I've just got this to-do list,
Here's
I'm
my
going to get through
list.
them.
Yeah.
What was your mental state then?
It is brutal.
The second time?
It's just like being cast out there. There's nothing we can do for you.
And you just thought, I'm a lost
I was
cause.
like, all right, I'll just go and get poisoned.
Aye.
It's a hard one to take.
I think, obviously it's maybe not, I just think any bad news in general, when it's at that point where you're talking about your life and you don't, people are, sometimes I think the consultants they're obviously matter of fact and it is very clinical, but you walk away and you think, well, you're almost it's like the depth of despair. You're like, but I just want somebody to tell me, well, you've got this option,
It's
or
going to
this
be
is what we
okay.
can do, or it's going to be okay. And when somebody can't say that, I
Uh-huh.
don't think there's any worse feeling.
That's
than
all I
someone
wanted
not
was
being
somebody
able
to
say,
reassure me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, just tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Do you get any mental support at all?
So I want to say yes, and I want to say there's lots of fabulous things out there. So I joined a forum the first time round when I had primary breast cancer, and it was they're now breast cancer now, but they were breast cancer care, and I joined their forum and I loved it. Some people might not be for everybody, but for me it was everybody going through the same thing as me at the same time. You know, I've lost all my hairs fell out, you know, and so had they all at the same time. So I contacted them. They've got a Someone Like Me service. And so you contact them and they find you someone like you and you can speak to them. And so I was like, someone like me, please. Yeah. And I waited.
I think that's a really
And I waited.
that's
Oh,
a really good
I know,
idea.
I was about to say, that's fantastic.
Not if there isn't someone.
And I waited. And then I phoned and I was like, hi, I'm looking for someone like me.
They're all kind of looking at each other, oh, she's phoned it now.
And then, oh, right, we'll get on that. We'll try. And I thought, and eventually I phoned her up and I said, are they all dead? You know, genuinely, why is there no one like me? It's an aggressive cancer. And I was like, where are they all? Where's my pals?
How do you stay so upbeat and positive? You've been told that. Honestly, you're so it's so easy to talk to you. Do you know what I mean? It's unreal.
I don't. What else can you do? You know, am I going to go? And I said that the first time. I wasn't going to go home and sit and watch Jeremy Kyle because I think you can easily fall into.
You look at life totally different when you've been told that.
You can fall into. I'm going to go home and watch Jeremy Kyle. I found last year, 2020, COVID lockdown. I found that really hard because everybody was saying, oh, I just want it to be over. Oh, you know, this is awful. And I'm like, do you know, I've not got the luxury of wishing a year away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm holding on for Top Gun. See, when they
100%.
moved the release date for Top Gun, I was like, Tom, what are you doing? I've got to hang on now. I've got to
You're
hang
moving
on
that
now
back.
till the summer. But Tom...
You should maybe write them a letter as well.
I will. Tom and James Bond.
You
Aye.
seem to get stuff done, so
Yeah.
I mean, you should just be
I
writing
tell
letters.
when they
Just them
moved that day, I was like, no, what if I don't make it? So if I'm not going to make it, I'm going to write to them and say, look, you need to let me see it.
Yeah.
I've waited how many years for Top Gun?
And it's coming back.
Got to love a bit of Tom.
Is that your favourite film? Is it Top Gun?
Have you seen Top Gun?
I don't think I
I've
have.
never seen Top Gun.
Are you boys
Actually,
having a giraffe?
I don't think I've seen Top Gun either. I'm just going to put that out there.
Cheers for that,
We're
Rebecca.
all kind of like that. Oh, Top Gun, fantastic. Like, no idea what Top Gun is.
I like James Bond.
It shocked you us.
You have to go home.
We just all leave now, like.
I'm obviously, I'm not
Just grab it.
I'm not your classic audience here then, if you aren't Top Gun fans. You have to go and watch Top Gun.
We'll start watching it, we will. We'll start watching it, and if there's only one coming out, then we'll start watching it. Is that a series?
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie, right? Okay.
Is that a remake?
I know that Top Gun's is that like
lot
it's like sunglasses and that.
He's a fighter pilot.
That's right,
Who are you
At least I know what Top Gun
Who are
is.
you pretending?
You didn't know what it was.
I fucking no idea.
Exactly.
Highway to the Danger Zone.
I know the song.
This is all just going.
Oh my
We'll get on it. We will get on it.
Or you've made me feel really old, one of the two. Oh my god.
I've always also wanted to ask: what's the do's and don'ts of like things to say with people?
Don't say nothing.
Right. Okay.
Don't cross the street as if, oh my god, here's that stage 4 cancer patient coming quick. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Don't.
I don't think I always felt really bad for people because I know it could be really awkward. Like, what do you say to somebody that's standing in front of you with no hair or like still going through chemo, like all those kind of things. Like, what do you say to people? So I would always, if I was speaking to somebody like after transplant, I would try and talk about them. Oh, how are you and what are you doing? So that they didn't feel so much pressure to talk to me about me, because you know at that point I'd talked about it enough and I'd been in hospital for so long that I didn't really have anything to say. There was nothing exciting going on in my life at that point.
I've actually been in the same room
I've not done anything. Nothing's really going on just now. So how are you? What have you been doing? How was Christmas? All the usual kind of.
So it's not really a bad thing to say. It's more just like don't say nothing.
So.
Don't avoid the elephant in the room.
Don't feel awkward. Certainly not.
Don't be like,
for me,
I like what you've done with your hair. Are you going for the Sinead O'Connor? Just say,
have you chosen that haircut?
are you going through some treatment just now? Just something.
No,
then just avoid the fact that you look like death.
I would rather people just asked like what's going on or what has happened.
And I do think people don't know what to say, do they?
No.
Whereas if you ask me a question, I'll tell you. I'm like, blah.
Yeah.
But I think people are frightened too.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I think
which is partly why I did the videos in October, because it's not something I would normally talk about, and it's things that people wouldn't ask you.
Yeah.
So I was like, even if you don't want to know, blah 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 blah.
It's 100%. I think people will know how to approach you more. Like after that, like I think when they know that you're
steady on, like I'm underground still.
I know. Angela's underground. This is the first time she's been seen in public.
Don't get out much.
They can tell now.
Watch Tom Cruise movies.
I know. I have probably seen a bit of Top Gun. Then if I've seen,
you have to see Top Gun.
I've seen Tom Cruise in the Shades. That's
and then go and see Cocktail. Yeah, just add them all up.
Yeah, we will.
And it's supposed to be a good movie as well. Cocktail, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've not seen that.
Going back to you, Rebecca, obviously we've got up to the point with yourself where you'd found a donor. Your body was then prepared for a donor. So how quick what was the process of getting these new cells put in?
So they give you a timeline, bit like a to-do list like you. So it's like chemo, let's see how that works. Okay, it's been alright, but it's still not gone. Second chemo, so like you get a break. I got a break in between because I was obviously in for so long, so it's like 6 weeks. Out for a few weeks, then another 6 weeks. That was second round of chemo. And then they said, so that kind of second round was like, right, well, we're just doing this to keep you in remission until we can get you in for transplant. And then I think I was out for maybe like 8 weeks and then in for transplant. You get your conditioning, which is more chemo, your radiotherapy, and then that next, I think I had my radiotherapy in the morning, and then that afternoon or that evening they gave me my stem cells. Then that's it. It's really it's just really uneventful. It's a bag of cells, and the whole family's there watching these cells, and they're like, oh, this is exciting, which it is. It's a massive moment, because for me at that point it was like, well, if this doesn't work, that's it. There's nothing. There's not really anything else. And obviously even on the run up to transplant, there's only a certain percentage of people that the transplant actually works for, and they also they take you into a pre-transplant meeting which is with your consultant. It's like an hour-long meeting, and it is basically, it's the legal side of it. So they go through every bad thing that is either going to kill you, make you nearly ill, or just completely annihilate your body. So they say to you, do you want to know your percentage chance of survival? And I was like, nah, no thanks. Oh. So I know like some of the other girls, they want the figures, but I'm like, this is my only...
Did they tell you what the figures were?
No, they ask you, do you want to know what your...
Did the girls that found out, did they ever tell you what their figures were?
I was like, I don't want to know, don't tell me. We talked about it once and I was like, no, don't want to know. And they obviously do it by like, I think it's like by age range and things like this. It's nice and warm. And yeah, so they say, do you want to know? And I said, look, do you know, there's no point in me knowing facts and figures because this is my only option. So had I even had the chance to not even come to this meeting and know about all the terrible, deadly side effects, I probably would have declined, because there's whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and there's nothing I can do to basically... I was always trying to find a way out of it, and I'm like, definitely going to have to go ahead with this. I can't get out of this. So, so obviously you start your transplant and you're okay then, but it's not till you actually get your cells that all these bad things can happen, because they can basically, it's called graft versus host disease, and they can basically start attacking your body. So that can kill you. There's obviously lots of other nice side effects that you can have. On the whole, although I was quite unwell during it, I was lucky to not have major side effects, and I've obviously, touch wood, came out the other side of it, which some people don't, so that's always a bonus.
What was kind of going through your head then, getting these cells put in, knowing that this could kill you? Were you more looking at the positive that this could...
What's that? I'm going to die if I don't get them?
I was a bit like you. I was like, right, I've got to get this week done, this thing done, this done, and then I'm out, and then let's just see what happens after that. So I was very much in the mindset of, let's do this, let's get it done. I want out of here. I'd obviously been doing it for like almost a year up until then, in and out of hospital, and all I wanted to do was just go home. And I always said to Johnny, I was like, you know, some people have this amazing ability to come out and, you know, they're always doing like loads of raising awareness and, you know, charity events and raising a lot of money and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's really brave and it's amazing. But for me, I just wanted to go home and be myself. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go home, I wanted to be myself. I didn't want to be like a cancer patient. I didn't want people to be like, oh, there's Rebecca, that's really terrible, like, you know, she looks, I don't mean she looks awful, but it's a shame everything that she's going through. I just wanted to be me, and I wanted to be Rebecca, not Rebecca the cancer patient.
I think you've done that really, really well. To be honest, I actually remember you, like, obviously I remember first finding out, and it was obviously just your Facebook post that we seen, and it was shocking. It's like, it's kind of what we said before, you don't expect it to happen to you, but you almost don't expect it to happen to people
around you,
especially someone so young as well,
young, and that you know so well. And what I found is, obviously after you'd came out, and it was brilliant. You were just straight away back to your kind of, it seemed to be your normal self, going out, having drinks, going for dinner and all that sort of stuff, like, you know. Which
then we got locked down.
I know, pretty much. So I just went back to work. So I was out of Queen Elizabeth in December, and then I stayed with my dad for like about 6 or 8 weeks just while I recovered. And then in January I said, right, I want to try and go back to work in February. I just wanted to like keep going, push myself a wee bit more, and try and get a bit of normality back. So we obviously went back home, settled in, and I went back to work in February, and then I think I got maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks at work, and that was it, lockdown started. And I found that was like probably my mentally low point, because I was trapped, and at that point, I'm back, this is my comeback, and then it was like, no, you're staying in your house for however long. And also because nobody knew how bad coronavirus was at that point and how dangerous it was, and so I thought, oh my god, I need to stay in this house, and because I had no immune system at that point. And at that stage it was like, right, everybody stay in their house, especially these people like you that are literally 2 months out of transplant. This is really dangerous. So I thought, well, transplant's not killed me, so is coronavirus going to kill me? That was my worry. And obviously Johnny was still, you know, he at that point, he didn't go to the shop, he didn't leave the house either for like 6 weeks because he didn't want to bring anything home. So it was, my friend was doing the shopping and then dropping it at the door, and then Johnny was picking it up and wiping everything down, and it was crazy. And then about 2 months later we thought, right, enough's enough. Like, we can't live like this.
Lot, like I guess you were like that to another level, but I think everyone was almost like that. We were just sending you to Morrison's with literally a mask, goggles,
gloves.
I know, man.
I think you almost had a bibble
Face
at one
shield.
That's
point.
what a crime scene or something, honestly, it's wild.
Literally going in like this. Do you know what I mean? It was quite unbelievable. Just kind of going back slightly, Rebecca, obviously, how long did it take you to find out that your cells had went well, you know, they had taken to your body? 2.5
weeks, I think.
And then how was that news? Like, how was getting that news? Was your family around at that point as well when you got
No,
that?
so they do like a round every morning, the consultants come round, and then they'll come in one day and they'll say, oh, good news, you've got 1 neutrophil, and you're like, oh! So, but obviously it's still really early at that point, so you're like, oh, you've got 1, but this could drop again, you know, it could come up, we need to wait and see. And so it took a few days, and they're like, no, these are climbing, and then once you get to a certain point, they say, right, okay, we think we can let you home in a couple of days. And I think they said...
That's the carrot dangling.
Yeah, say it was like the Monday, and they said, we might be able to let you home at the end of the week. So it got to like the Thursday, and they're like, we still think we might let you home tomorrow. And on the Friday, I was room packed, ready to go, shoes on, jacket on, and the nurses were all laughing. They're like, are you waiting to go? I'm like, I'm going today. I don't care what you say. I'm leaving here today. And they did. They're like, going to somebody just go and tell her she can go home. So they came round and they're like, yeah, you can go home.
I cried at the man. I was like, let me out. And he said, really? I can't. And I was like, please let me out. I was can't.
Not. Do you accept bribes?
I know. I was not up for giving the option. It was, my shoes are on, my jacket's on, my bags are packed. I'm leaving.
And did you get to ring you got to, I think I
I actually watched that video last night, Instagram.
You ring the bell, but yeah, you're in a bit of again, I was just like, get me out here. I've been in here for however long with no fresh air, not out this room, get me out. Ring, 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 gone, out.
Like, so obviously, like, you both had your partners throughout the entire thing with you. Like, how's that kind of changed your relationship? Is it changed your relationship at all? Because, I mean, obviously, the normal couple that don't ever need to go through something that serious, yeah, they're close, they're like, do you know what I mean? But has it changed going through something like this? Has it changed you and your partner, like the relationship or the closeness?
Bring you closer,
I think for me, like, I always felt bad, like you're saying, like most people in a relationship probably wouldn't have to go through this. So again, because I probably worry about everybody else and how they're feeling, and you know how it's affecting them, and you know it's probably not what Johnny wanted when he's 33, but it's obviously he would have never done anything different. So again, it's just one of these things, like you wouldn't even think twice. You're just like, this is what's happening, this is what we need to do as a partnership, and we'll both get through this, and you know, you'd do anything for each other. I think for us it was very intense because we were, especially during transplant, we were together. He was there all day, every day, just trying to help me because I couldn't really get out of my bed and stuff for a good few weeks. So I think that's hard on, no matter how much you love somebody, that's hard. You do annoy each other at some points, but I'm eternally grateful for everything he's done for me.
Oh, nice.
And then he's got engaged, so then it's a win.
Now we're back to just driving each other mad in the house. But
I think for me, Stuart and I had built our house. So our relationship had already changed.
It already been tested.
That was a tough one. And I think our relationship changed then into something different in a nice way. Yeah, the niceties go, you know, oh, sweetheart, pass me that hammer, darling. That goes, it's just like, I need the hammer. Like, give me the hammer. You know, like going to lift the blocks round the back. Like, right, okay. You know, so I think we already had that before this hit, but at the same time then, we got engaged while I was still getting jabbed in the leg.
Right.
And then I was all finished, and then we got married thinking life was all going to be rosy. And then it was literally like 6 weeks later, I was back in the hot seat. I was like, sorry. Yeah,
that's what you're like, oh, sorry things are like this. You know?
Oh, really? Do you almost, obviously this is bad, but do you almost feel like that hindrance? Is it that almost?
I think so, because you've affected, it's not just our lives, you've affected everybody around about his life. They didn't choose it, I didn't choose it, but I'm stuck with it.
It affects a lot of people, and I always had that kind of, I don't want people to come see me today because they'll feel bad when they go home and they'll be upset about it, and I don't want somebody to be upset about how I am today, but it's unavoidable for a partner. They are there and they do have to see it all the time, and it's a, you know, I was a burden, you know, during my recovery, and that's, you don't really expect that at the age of like 32 your partner's going to be caring for you. Like it's something you think, well, maybe when I'm 70, 80, but not at this stage. You know, you think you want to be out and living your life and going on a holiday is not caring for your sick partner, but you just do it. It's just.
And I remember reading a thing, and I remember going into my oncologist and I'm saying, have I got a life limit in illness? You know, I must have read it somewhere. Yeah, life limit. And I was like, is that me?
Surely not.
Am I one of these people? So I think for me, it's always in the back of my mind that I won't be here one day and they will. And that's a tough one.
I think that.
So for me, you know, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to for my whole life be like, oh, I miss her. Whereas family and friends are going to be. I'm not going to know that you're having a party and you're like, Angela who?
I know. Who's that Angela we were saying?
So it is tough.
Yeah, I find that a hard thought. That's probably one of like the most difficult thoughts, I think, is what happens if, for me, like, leukemia can relapse at any point, and I've obviously have this mutation, so, you know, it's like, oh, let's plan a holiday for December, and I think, nah, let's just see what happens next week or the week after.
Tomorrow.
And then I think, like, what happens if it does come back, and what, you know, there's no other options, and
I call it the stalker.
What's going to happen?
Because it's always lurking there, you don't know when.
What's Johnny going to do? What's going to happen with the dog? Like, is he going to let her out for enough walks every day? Like, these are these crazy thoughts that you have sometimes. That's something that I think you have to, that's like a mental thing that you have to deal with just every day, and that's something that some people can manage to deal with, and sometimes other people find it more difficult to deal with, I think.
Obviously, I know you're in like two different situations now, but is the feeling the same in terms of, see, when you go through something like that and you've been through a lot, you come back out, you know, my thought would be like, obviously, do you start looking at life differently in terms of, like, I'd imagine straight away you probably start looking at life differently, thinking, I want to start doing this now, I want to start doing this. But then does that also fade as the months go on? Is like straight away, are you like, okay, I'm going to change my life and I need to start
the bucket list?
Yes.
Right, here, tick off the bucket list.
So did you straight away like start feeling different towards life?
I'm going to say yes, but at the same time, I think everybody that's just been locked in for the past year, you've been in your house and you've been thinking, oh, when I get out, I'm going to go and do this, and this. At the same time, if you look back in a year's time, many of those things will you have done.
Yes.
You know, oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But I would say, do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got something you want to do, write it down. And even if, I don't know, you set a reminder and, do you know, oh, I've not, look, where I'm in the same place as I have been. And let this past year of sitting, everybody's life has changed.
Totally.
To actually think, do you know, that's the things I really missed. I want to really do these things. Go and do them. Because like that, your body tells you, I think, when it's not happy.
Yeah.
Listen to it and take the time for yourself. Because everybody's like, runs about like a big chicken, or I think, I'm going here, I'm going there. Oh, I'm supposed to be locked down, but I've never been so busy. Oh. Do you know, take some time out just to look after yourself, because nobody else will. Nobody will. Yeah. You know, like, back to the doctor, or this, I'm not happy.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, you know your body better than anybody, and, you know, the doctors, the GPs, everybody does an amazing job, but if you're not happy with what they're saying, your body will tell you. And I knew, like, instinctively that what they're saying, okay, maybe it could be a B12 deficiency, but this is not working, and no, I'm not happy to just be, you know, palmed off for another couple of weeks. There is something not right here. So I think it's important to just keep pushing. If you feel that something is not right, just keep pushing for answers, because it's only you that's gonna get, you know, you're the only person that's gonna get answers. If
life is too short.
I was also
Grab it by my big pep talk. Number 1, go and watch Top Gun.
right, motivational speech, Top Gun number 1.
Cocktail, Tom Cruise cocktail.
Cocktail if it's raining.
I'm going to actually watch it. I'm going to watch it tonight. I will. I'll watch it tonight. So I will.
I tell you, you'll be next to me in the queue when they're selling tickets for the new one.
I'll become obsessed.
It is. Well, I hope it stands up from like the 80s
I know you've
to now.
totally bigged it up now.
I don't care.
So we can blame you.
I
I've got it on a pedestal now.
I don't mind. You have to. It's up there.
Yeah, I think it's important to, you know, even if you've had an illness or not, like what you're saying, do the things that you want to do. Like for me, my whole life's not changed, but I definitely think, you know, you might have a wee bit of money saved away, and I would normally think, oh, just keep saving that. Now I'm a bit more willing to be like, all right, okay, we'll just go and do what we want. We'll just go and do what we want. But yeah, you just don't know. You don't know what the next day is going to bring. Like, I live my life by consultant appointments, and if one consultant appointment's good, I'm like, oh, that's me. I've got another few weeks. I don't know.
I have no idea what day of the week it is, but I know. I work in 3 weekly cycles.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Yeah. So it's to be fair, I don't actually, because it's either the 26th, the 27th, or the 28th is the next Wednesday. Yeah. But 3 weeks time, I know it's the end of March, and then
obviously, like what the journey that you have both been through, it's horrendous. Like what you need to go through in terms of like the chemotherapy, getting all the bad news. Did you ever find, you know, almost that kind of thing? If you weren't to laugh, you'd cry. But did you ever find any situations throughout your journey, you know, where it could be really bad that you just found yourselves laughing, or there was just a situation you look back now and just think we can have a laugh about that. That was hilarious that happened.
I think like Johnny always says to me, he's like, do you know, the one thing is that even through your worst, through transplant, we smiled and we laughed at least once every day. Even if you were so ill and you could only wake up for an hour or whatever, we smiled and we laughed about something. You know, we would sit and I'd have no hair and I'd be really unwell, and we'd be doing like filters on Snapchat, and it would be hilarious. It just wasn't that funny, but you know, that brightened my day up. Or like,
like I get, when you lose, although I kept my head hair, all the rest of my hair all fell out. You wouldn't believe how much your nose hair does. But see, when you've got no nose hair, mine's is quite thin. Your nose drips like you wouldn't believe.
I had that. It's like a tap. It's a constant.
So you're making your dinner and sorry. So don't come into my house.
You're making somebody else's dinner.
I remember, bless poor supermarket in Dunoon. I bent over to pick up an onion and it dripped, and I thought, thankfully they've got it nearly did it there.
Confessions here. Someone get out of that one.
It is, if you don't laugh, you would sit at home watching Jeremy Kyle, and then they took, you're going to see who's Jeremy Kyle. They took him off the air too.
Jeremy.
But you know, like, you sit there, Home's Under the Hammer, Good Morning.
It's not the way to
live
your life.
But you did find times that you could just laugh, you know, during
I think
that
you
time.
have to. Yeah. Otherwise you are sitting watching Home's Under the Hammer and you know what's next. Bargain hunt. Yeah, we've all been there.
It was, what's the... I can't remember the thing with Ben Shepherd. I did go through a couple of weeks when I couldn't really do anything of watching that.
It's in the morning though.
Is that
That's
the
too
antiques
early.
It's in the afternoon. It's like on after
it's
the
like a quiz
chaser.
thing, isn't it?
Tipping Point.
Tipping
Point. And
when
the
have you watched it? Don't go there.
That was.
That's you've hit rock bottom.
That was
when you're watching.
Routine.
Do you know the 2p machines?
Yes.
That's what it's like.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
That's all it is.
You put the coins in it.
Yeah.
You put the big coin in and it's pushing them over.
You're just watching that on telly.
For a couple of weeks.
And that's when you know,
I
thought, right, that's enough. I'm going back to work. I can't do this anymore.
You know, right?
I
I've hit rock bottom here. Like, I know what's coming on
Time
next.
to get up and out.
So do you now do like charity things? Is there charity things that you are now?
Did you not set up like a marathon? Like I remember seeing a picture on Facebook, all like the divers and stuff like that.
That was the Beatson.
To raise money for the Beatson, was it?
So that was loads of people from work. That was amazing.
There's
They
a
raised up quite a lot of money.
Cancer charity.
Yeah.
They've got the 4th floor in the Beatson. And you go in there and it's amazing.
It's incredible.
It's like a cafe. And
Spa treatment.
I got my hair cut, they
incredible.
painted my toenails. You go in and you're like, oh yeah, can I have a mucka pucka puccino?
Yeah.
You know,
Anything
and they
well
bring
looked
it
after.
and they bring it away
Biscuits
over.
and-
And you've got to realise I'm in a hospital here.
Yeah.
But they've just made it nice. It's all.
That's really good that they made
It's-
that feel not like a
It's
hospital.
incredible
So
because
that
I was
is
in there
a nice.
obviously for a long time,
Yeah.
and you could go away from your bed or your ward, and you could go in to the cafe and you could have a cup of tea, and it was just like a bit of normality in all the chaos. And they would come round when it got to the point where you can't leave your ward. The Beatson staff come round to your bed and give you like the treatment. So I was getting like my nails painted at my bed and my feet
There's a lady
painted at my
comes to
bed.
F South and she does
it.
it.
Yeah,
It's priceless.
amazing.
The job they do,
Honestly,
that is absolutely priceless, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
So it's really important, like the Beatson for me, and we also donated some money to like leukemia research. There's a couple of leukemia charities, so that's obviously really important to me too, especially the drug that I was on initially was brand new, so I was lucky to be able to get that when I did. I try and raise awareness where and when I can, but sometimes life slips away with you as well, so it's important for me to remind myself every now and again, like for me as well, the donating blood, donating platelets, doing your stem cell donation, it comes in a kit, it's a swab, all you have to do is do a swab and post it away, they do everything else, it's
That's
painless.
number 2 on your list.
Yeah.
Top Gun number 1, number 2.
Stem cell
Wow, Top Gun is
donation.
right up there for
Get
you.
get your stem cell swab done.
It literally takes 5 minutes to request a kit online, so that's really important.
We'll leave some links down below.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can check all this sort of stuff out.
Blood donations. I mean, the amount of blood and platelets that these, like the haematology wards, are going through every day. You're talking, I don't know. I mean, I was getting 3 bags every couple of days at some point, and you've got maybe, I don't know, 50 people in the ward. So you can only imagine the number of bags of blood that they need. So especially during COVID, their levels are obviously a lot lower.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important.
'Cause
Not
they're
only
not
for
giving out the
haematology,
biscuits and the tea.
for everything, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you're not allowed, I don't think, anymore.
No, in the COVID times, that's why there's a shortage.
Yeah, no one wants to go.
Because the tea and biscuits
My
have
friend
been
always
cut
says,
out.
she's like, I love going for my blood donation because I get a cup of tea and a biscuit.
I actually think they give you a drink on the way out.
Yeah,
I know somebody that went, but no biscuits.
No
no.
biscuits anymore.
So that's
No-
why
no
they've
one
taken
gets
a drop
that.
in the
Nice.
donors.
But it's important for, I mean, blood, you use blood for all sorts of kind of things, but it is very important.
And you obviously created a lot of awareness with your challenge, the 100k. So are you looking to do more things like that as well? Or definitely not 100k again.
I don't. I've been put to shame with the 5k a days because it's like I can't even. It depends. I would need to do it in February when there's less days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm more for raising awareness. And
Yeah.
when I first went over 2017 and you're sitting in that ward, I was the youngest person there. Now I go in, and when I first went to look at wigs, they were all grey, and curly. When you sit in the waiting room now, there is a lot of young girls in there.
Right, okay, yeah, so it seems
And
to
you
be.
think, I don't know what it is or whether it's lifestyle and changing, but there's a lot of younger people in there. Like that whole, it's not going to happen to me. It'll never happen to me. Well, it might not, and I hope it doesn't. But, for taking 2 seconds to have a wee feel of yourself,
Yep.
doesn't take much.
You're better safe than sorry, aren't you?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it doesn't mean that if you do find something, it's necessarily going to be
I think
awful.
sometimes people are almost a bit scared to check in case there is something there, and they're like, and then they're like, in denial. No, not
I
gonna
met
do
a
anything
woman
about it.
who's got ovarian cancer. I happened to get a scan next to her house. I was like, I can meet you for coffee. And she gets scanxiety. If she's waiting for a scan, she said, I don't know how you cope with it. And I said, because good or bad, you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do find something and you go and get it checked, if it's good, at least you know, and you've done something about it. And if it's bad, you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Just waiting and doing nothing
Is the worst thing.
For me personally, if I had waited, you hear of these people that have a lump and they do nothing about it, and then it's gone pussy and it's gangrenous and it's eating into your skin, you know, and it's fungating and it's smelly, and you think, did you leave it so long?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything abnormal, go to your doctor.
Yeah.
And that was when I did the videos, I thought, your doctors are open. Don't be afraid to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got procedures and protocols in place that you're all masked up.
Yeah.
If you find something, don't put it off. Go.
Honestly, your videos were great. Like, I was watching through them all, and you actually learn a lot. You do. You learn a lot. So you do. Like, obviously, I learn a lot.
Rock at it. Yeah.
I've not actually watched them yet. I need to watch them. Watch them.
They're not that good.
Got high expectation for them and Top Gun.
It's not like Saturday night. Oh, right, let's watch our videos on Saturday night. Yeah. No.
So, like, if someone finds herself in the same sort of situations as you did, they've maybe just been given the bad news, what would you recommend? Like, so they've just been given, obviously, maybe they have just been given the bad news. Is there anything that you would recommend? Like, don't, like, be, like you were kind of saying, you were getting things in order that kind of took your mind off it a wee bit. That sort of stuff, is there anything that you would recommend to do or way to be?
For me, for my second time round when I came out and there was like no hope, and it was, I think don't ever lose hope. There's always a chance. You know, things are changing so fast and so quickly.
I think just keep fighting. I would always say keep fighting, because like what you're saying, just because somebody says just now, oh, this isn't available just now, see in 2-3 months it could be available, and all you're doing is always buying time till maybe something better comes out. Don't think I'm gonna die. No, because you might.
Yeah.
But you might not. There's people out there, and that's what gave me a boost, is there's people out there living with cancer as a chronic disease. Mm-hmm. You know, they're managing it. So I met the woman I met in Dunoon before I came here, who's got the same type of cancer as me. I contacted her because I couldn't find someone like me. And I wanted her to find someone like me, who I'm a step further on than her. So I'm in the waiting room almost. Yeah. You know, but I'm still functioning as a person and I'm still doing things. It's not a death sentence. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So don't go home and think, oh, that's me.
I think it's easy to get sucked into, like, you know, you Google and you're like, oh my God, like statistically, there's only 1 in 3 million people that survive, and you're like, and I'm not going to be that one person. Like, don't look too much into the statistics. Like, don't make yourself a statistic. You're you, and you're determined.
And a lot of the statistics are like, there's 3 years between that woman and myself. There's 3 years, and the treatment is so different. Yeah. There's actually, for breast cancer, there's an NHS Predict, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you can go on NHS Predict and you type in what you've got, the size of your tumour, you know, whether you've had affected lymph nodes, and it gives you a timeline of.
That's incredible. I didn't think that would
in 5 years, in 10 years.
That does sound horrendous.
And I think you're supposed to do it with your doctor, but it's there, you can do it. Yeah. Some people it's not for them. And I remember going on it and I'm like, Stuart. Stuart. And he likened it. He was like, it gives you a percentage. And he was like, but you imagine 100 of you were lined up on that start line. You know, you've just got to beat 60 of them.
Yes.
It's like, all right, that sounds better.
That's,
you know,
how I guess
it'd be good for some people. Some people wouldn't.
Some
like
people
that,
want to know, some people don't. I
Yeah.
didn't want to know first time round, and second time round I pinned the oncologist down into what's the prognosis word. I was like, prognosis. Yeah. Am I going to see Top Gun in there?
Yeah. Am I going to see Top Gun this year?
How many Top Gun words can we get here too?
I think I find it easier not, you know, Johnny will do the percentages and the this and the that. He likes to know those things. I don't really. I like to know a certain amount, and then I think, well, there's nothing. I can't control it anyway. So But I know that if there's something that I specifically want to know, I just say to him, what's the crack with this?
And give me the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, give me the good,
Fluff
the
it
easy
up.
version. Make it nice and fluffy, bit cloudy. How's it looking? But it is hard because the first thing, when I was obviously researching what I could have before I got diagnosed, and you know, it was terrible. The things on there were like, you know, people with like AML, one person out of 1 million might live past 5 years. That's not the true figures, by the way. But you know, that's how it felt, and I was like,
90% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not going to be.
That's a statistic.
It's and it's terrible. Like you just, you know, it's easy to get sucked into that, and I did a couple of times. I just felt like total despair, and I managed to get myself out, but it's really easy to do with just reading all this terrible information all the time. I think
it's honestly absolutely amazing to like where both of you are at the moment as well, like just how positive you both are still being. You must have been extremely strong to actually get through the entire journey like as well. What are your plans now? Like if you've got like certain plans now?
Future plans? No, because we can't deal with
We don't
past.
deal with future
So
plans.
that's a silly question.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the last question.
Have you got a bucket list though? Have you got like a bucket list? Like check off things
No,
you want to do?
I don't have anything
Nah.
set. I just think if I come across a nice place I want to go, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
I might not be able to go right now, but I try and leave any plans to the last minute now, because I almost feel like if I book something a year in advance, I might jinx myself. I don't know. It's for instance, like I've got a box of stuff that I took home from the hospital, like my clothes and my bedding and all this kind of stuff. I will never unpack that box. There's 2 boxes, and I said to Johnny, he's like, will we unpack them and get rid of some stuff? And I'm like, no, don't ever touch those boxes.
Don't open the box.
1, because if anything happens again, I can just take my boxes and I'm out. And 2, I just feel like it's bad luck.
Don't open the box.
It's just something in my head. I'm like, don't. And I think that's in my mind. I'm like, no, that's all filed away and that's closed and that's where it's going to stay unless it needs to come back out. I just won't touch it.
I think that's a good way for anyone to actually live life, you know, is maybe don't
Sweep
plan
it
too
under
much.
the carpet.
Well,
Just
it's-
put it in a box and don't look at it. Oh yeah.
Don't open that box
Put it in the box,
ever.
leave. No, I
You
mean,
don't know what's going to come out of there.
more just the whole, maybe don't plan too far ahead and actually just live for the moment.
I think I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Well, people have written a list, things that I'm going to do when I get let out of lockdown. Go and do it.
Yeah.
Don't delay it any longer.
I think half the time you write these lists,
you
like
never
what
know.
you're saying, you never actually, that's even planning, so you're planning your bucket list, but then you probably don't do half of those plans either. Just like take life day by day. It's hard, like everybody gets sucked in, even though I've been through what I've been through, you still get sucked into the daily life and the doing the chores and the housework and the going to work or whatever, but it's not Angela. It's a lady of leisure.
I do,
But you
know
do-
a lady of leisure, but nobody's allowed in your house just now, which is amazing.
You get like a
nice and tidy.
Or you can just leave it
Leave
wild
it.
and nobody comes in.
The opposite.
The complete
I've never
opposite.
heard of the
aye.
stairs. That doesn't matter, nobody can get in.
But it's easy to get sucked back into that like routine, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
try not to.
Take time and look after yourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
No, well, honestly, I think it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the podcast. I've had, honestly, we've loved hearing your story.
I've loved it.
It's been
So
so
Thanks for
good.
brave of
having
us
us.
coming on, honestly. Thanks for telling your story, honestly.
And I think if it can
Yeah.
raise awareness in any sort of way, do you know what I mean, and help anyone, and I think it was definitely
Look out
obviously
for
worth it.
signs, symptoms. Don't
Yeah.
take the first answer that
Yeah,
you're given.
don't be afraid. If
No.
you're not happy, don't be
Keep
afraid to go
pushing.
back and say, actually, do you know, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Trust
but-
your intuition.
You don't have to donate money. You can do things like donating blood, like
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. Signing up for transplant donations. I don't know anything, you know, even from your side.
Check your
Just
boobies.
forcing family members to check boobs and whatever
Yeah.
other bits people may have. But yeah, just be
Check their
more.
own, not just
be-
like forcing them to
Yeah.
check them.
But yeah, just be aware, I
Yeah.
think, of the symptoms and the signs of all these kind of things. Because I wasn't.
Yeah.
And
And don't
watch,
think, oh, it'll never happen to me.
No.
Yes, yeah, and watch Top Gun as well.
Yeah.
Watch Top Gun.
Yeah.
Priority.
No, thank you very much.
Thank
you.
It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for the tasty snacks.
I know.
Yes, I know.
Thanks
we
to
can,
Chemist's
we
team.
can take all that back. Thanks, Chemist's team. We'll give you something, will you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.